Now, we are going to transition into our Dungeon Master's work side of everything. But first, that boring stuff again. We are, once again, looking for your support, and how you can do that easily is a few main ways. Free doesn't cost you anything. First, like, follow, subscribe, turn on the notification bells of these lovely YouTube videos. That's a huge, huge bonus, huge help. Spread the word, share it around. That will help you. If you want to as well, patreon.com/Pillars of Adventuring. Links will be in the description. That way you can support us even further. Again, this is being run through my personal Twitch for our live broadcast, which happen every Wednesday. So twitch.tv/KesFromMcKnight. And we get all the fun stuff there. We are also a podcast now. You can find our podcast on such fun places as Spotify, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Breaker, and Pocket Cast. All of these, search up Pillars of Adventuring, and you get our podcast.
Yeah. I have really nothing to add to that.
Okay, then.
That's pretty much all of it. Also, pretty sure that our YouTube links are down there. Go to our YouTube, because we've got the Curse of Strahd, we have Tyranny of Dragons, we also have the Quiet Tempest, which is where Caradoc, the Bear Barbarian, I think one of the characters actually called him the Bearbarian. He's
at least once.
So, yeah, at least once. So yeah, check us out on our YouTube channel as well.
So again, Pillars of Adventuring on YouTube. Search us up. Like, follow, subscribe. And not only will you get these, but you will see our replays of the streams, which are condensed and made a little bit more viewer friendly. Go with that, viewer friendly.
Yep.
So I want to circle back on something, and this changed from how we started, and we're going to be moving into this episode based on the broadcast stream that I did on Sunday. First, for those who watched that one, I do want to apologize. While I still think I made the right move, ultimately, I did not handle it well. No excuse on that one. I did not handle it well. I discovered in that campaign that was not the right group for me. So for my own mental health, I left it. And it took me a day to calm down to explain to the DM why I left it. Which comes back to what we did. Why are you going to run your game? As a dungeon master, what is your purpose for running the game? Every game I run has a story. And it is to converse with the story with everybody in. And develop it together. It's an official module. A lot of stories are already done. In the morning, to our Quiet Tempest run, that's more development for the characters than it is for the world, because I'm just using Faerun Sword Coast as the world. And I even took that campaign over. So I'm taping it together as best I can.
And he's doing a great job, by the way. He's doing a great job. We're all loving it. So my biggest problem, and I do not work well in these groups, and I don't know very many people who do. But when the DM is actively against the players, that's where you start to have an issue. Tim can tell you that I play jackass characters very well. Oh yeah, yeah, he does.
And
For
these are the
being a sweet
characters.
guy, he can really be a jerk.
These are the characters that you love to hate. And sometimes there are people that you want to be friends with for advantages, but you realize, yeah, there's going to be some issues long term. We're not going to be close friends. We're just going to be work buddies, right? And I run some characters that you don't want anything to do with at all. I think my favorite compliment was how I really want to just kill Frulov. I don't care about anything else more. We're going after her.
We all said that, by the way.
Yeah.
Even Deacon, and he was running Deacon. So
yeah, I was running Deacon. I have both. We have a kobold that is the best protected kobold in the universe, and then the rest of the cast.
Yeah, he's the star of the show.
But it comes down to, why do you want to run the campaign? What are you trying to accomplish? You don't have to have everything storyboarded, plotted out. In fact, I encourage you not to. But know your why. And if your why is to show these characters XYZ, or show them that you're such a great, wonderful person, maybe being a dungeon master isn't for you. Not yet. Because at the end of the day, as a dungeon master, you should want to lose. You should want to give them a challenging epic that takes them through an emotional roller coaster, and at the end of the day, you lose.
I will tell you, one of the coolest things that Kes does when he's DMing is he cheers for us when we actually do roll well. And he actually kind of slumps in his chair a little bit when we roll shite. And most of the time, that seems to be what I roll. It's like, why am I rolling shite right now? So yeah.
Depends on the character as to what that... So like, Skladba, melee attacks, they're great. Don't know why, but they are. Actually, I think it's the magic attacks for the most part with both your characters. It's just magic doesn't like you.
My magic attacks really suck, both of them. Yeah.
Gyarados doesn't have any magic, so we don't see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's... For me, I'm not against the player. I want them to do well. The only times I get irritated is when I misbalance something. And it's usually I haven't had that issue in the ones I'm running so far. But when there's a strong boss and it's done like that, the reason I'm upset is because I didn't balance it right. Not that they won, but because I didn't make it a challenge. So why are you running the game? My reason is to tell a story and challenge my players. Because again, I want them to win. I want to have that success at the end. Even if that success they get isn't a full success. Because something else happened or didn't happen. Because you could have a situation like the Fallout games where technically you would achieve the goal, it just sucked.
We had a situation in I believe it was Strahd. Yeah, it was Strahd, where every single one of us were spent by the time we were done with the situation. We were being attacked, I tell you, but then there'd be spoilers. But anyway, we were attacked, and we fought, and we were spent. And while it is written in the story, we did it. We went through it. And that's why when Kes said earlier about him barricading in order for us to actually continue, we had to take a long rest. And the only way that we could do it was for him to barricade us in somewhere where we could rest and take that long rest. We were beaten, but it was a decent challenge for us, and we did win. We were just spent by the time it was done, and that's what's fun for us as players. We want to be spent. We want to go, okay, how are we going to figure this out? How are we going to do this now? Okay, we have to rest. I'm a sorcerer and I have no spell slots left. I have to rest.
Now,
and go ahead.
As we're looking at these things, now that we have an idea of why you're starting a game, and hopefully it's not just to show a particular player or show this group of players how awesome you are, or I'm gonna do XYZ to be more inclusive. I'm not saying run exclusive games. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying don't make that the focal point.
Mm-hmm.
Because at best, especially me, I'm a straight white dude. If I go out of my way to focus on inclusivity, even though I am an inclusive person, there is no way that it doesn't sound condescending.
Yeah, I sort of kind of have to agree with that. As a gay cis male, I have to agree. There are times when it does sound condescending. So maybe the thing is, don't say it.
Exactly.
Just be it.
My point with that is, now I love having ladies at the table because they give a different perspective that guys don't get. Just by different upbringing. I love that. It brings a great dynamic to the group. But I'm not going to go out of my way saying, hey ladies, come to my table. It's creepy. I'm not going to go out of my way to say LGBTQ plus community or whatever is the appropriate terminology now. I've heard that's been.
I don't even know because I think there's like 40 or 60 letters that we've added onto it.
I've heard some people say they prefer the alphabet mafia. I've heard some people say they prefer just to be called the queer community. I'm just trying to be better.
Hell, I don't even know, and I'm part of that community.
Yeah,
so, you know,
it's so. But I'm not going to go out of my way to say that because I'm not part of the community. But clearly I don't have a problem with them at the table. Caradox a gay man in game. I don't care. And that's what it comes down to is I don't care so long as it's a good story. If the story's not good, whatever. I also, on a personal level, even with my creepy characters, my evil characters, there's some things that just don't get hit on my table. No depictions of rape. And I will do torture scenes, but I won't do rape. And arguably, my torture scenes may be worse.
Well,
but it's about, and that again, it comes in with the session 0 and what you're looking for in a group. I don't want it to be a sexist game. I don't want it to be a homophobic game. I want it to be a game where people can sit down, acknowledge stereotypes, and move through them. There are some points where if everybody's okay, we will tackle a social issue. That's not something that's sprung on people.
And on the flip side of that, um, some of us, no matter how sex positive we are, we don't want to hear you role playing your little tryst in the tavern or the inn room upstairs. That's where, like Kes says in all of his session zeros, we fade to black. You
Yeah.
go upstairs in the inn, we fade to black. We don't want to role play it out. We don't want to see it. It doesn't matter how sex positive you are, it's still going to be uncomfortable for at least one of your players, if not all of
There's
them.
2 reasons to avoid that, not even just the uncomfortability. 1, scenes like that are difficult descriptives. If you don't believe me, just Google search the descriptive video, how they do descriptive music videos or movies for the visually impaired. It is not easy. So they've got to figure out how to describe points that some people don't know what they're doing in the first place.
Yeah.
But more than that, this bigger problem, beyond just the sheer difficulty of it, is you've got 4 to 5 players on average at the table. Sometimes more, sometimes less. I've run campaigns with 1 person. You are taking however long it takes for that interaction for just 1 person.
And it doesn't move the story along.
When that interaction could be done in a off-session time, if they really want to do it that way.
Right. Yeah.
So, and we've talked about this a bit, Tim. In your worlds that you like to play, or a few times where you DM, does a game have to start off epic?
Oh my God, no, don't. So the one thing that scares a player more than anything is when they walk in and they're at level 1 and they suddenly have to, maybe they meet the BBEG. They don't realize that he's the BBEG, but they meet the BBEG, right? Big bad evil guy, for those of you who are new. And they have to somehow fight it, or they have to. Good example is the what was it, 80s 90s cartoon series Dungeons and Dragons. The first thing these first level characters fight is Tiamat.
Aren't you glad I told you about that?
Yeah,
no matter how bad you are, you're not as bad as that dungeon master.
So it doesn't have to begin with an epic situation. It could be as little as going into a little haunted mansion and trying to solve a little puzzle in the haunted mansion to make it no longer haunted. And that takes 1 session. You
There's
don't
a reason why killing giant rats is broken. Because it's a common front work thing that lets you get familiar with the rules and the session and the path. Your game shouldn't be like Dark Souls where you just fall off the deep end.
Right. Please let your characters grow with the story. A band of 5 adventurers being attacked by 10, maybe 12 goblins isn't going to be overwhelming. It's going to be tough, but it's not going to be overwhelming. Swarm of rats, easy for a sorcerer with spell sniper feat if he's a human. If he's a human and is able to be a variant human with the spell sniper's feat. Eldritch Blast or Firebolt from 120 feet will take care of a big swarm of rats. Doesn't have to be epic, just has to be fun, and they have to feel like they succeed, even if they walk away with only 1 hit point.
Yeah.
That's what I like is oh my god, I almost died. I only have 7 hit points and I lost 6.
Yeah, you don't have to start off in the middle of this great, fantastic thing. And I think The Hobbit is one of the best examples for this. The main character is just rando dude in the middle of nowhere. And the adventure finds him. And he reluctantly accepts it. So it didn't start off epic. First couple chapters of The Hobbit was kind of like, okay, yeah, it's there. We're here. And then it ramped up. Now, the next thing I want to point out is I haven't had this personally too much. But I've seen it written on a couple campaigns and talked with a few of my friends. Being serious all the time is no fun. That's not to say you can't be serious, you can't have serious characters, you can't do serious things. But even the most serious character cracks a joke. And it's okay to laugh at people. Even in... It's actually been a running joke now with Curse of Strahd. My fighter against everything else we've come up against. Monsters, undead, shambling vegetation mounds. Nothing has taken him down. Well, the shambling mound came close.
Yeah.
I was 2 hit points away. Remarkably. Nothing has taken him down aside from an animated broom.
It knocked him completely unconscious, took him out.
2 swings.
2 swings.
So it's the running joke. Currently, the most dangerous thing in all of Barovia is an animated broom.
And if you're not laughing at this right now, you need to take some funny pills or something. I don't know.
Or watch our broadcast of it. It was...
Oh my god, it's so funny.
It's hilarious. And it was funny. Now, it was my character. I was a little bit irritated just because I got taken down by a broom. I didn't mind I got taken down. It was by a broom!
He's still a little bitter about it, can you tell?
But it was fun. It was funny. So being serious about it is no.
Yeah, that's why we joke about it all the time. I mean, the last episode that we did, the last session that we had, that was completely, and if you don't think that's not going to go through the whole rest of the campaign, you probably don't know us very well, and you should watch the stream because it's funny. That's very, very who we are. So yeah, I agree. In the 3 campaigns, well, actually I'm in 5 campaigns that I'm in, but the 3 that I'm in with Kes in particular, we do a lot of banter even while we're fighting. We're in our battle scenes and we're hitting and we're being hit and we're bantering back and forth, or we're talking shite to the bad guy or something. We're constantly doing stuff. We're like Spider-Man, basically. I mean,
pretty much.
You know, think about Spider-Man, how snarky he is while he's in the midst of battle. That's who we are, and it's a lot of fun to do that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to go through that and to do that, and so all of our companions are so much fun, and they do that. Um, and I'm going to do a really clumsy segue here. Um, a lot of our companions align the same way. We all have fairly close alignments, and so in that, let me just say that alignment can lend itself to tell a story very well.
Yes.
They can it I don't necessarily write my alignment down. I just play my alignment. I know what I want my character to be. um, Used to be at the beginning, I wrote my character's alignment down on everything. um, my my barbarian who was raised by a wolf is neutral. I have a druid who is neutral good. Um, so, I mean, I do have alignments that I have written, but most of all, I play my characters in the alignment that I want them to be. What I want to encourage you DMs is to encourage your players, figure out what your alignment is going to be. Learn how to play that. Read what they are. If you're going to be chaotic good, learn what chaotic means and learn what good means. Because,
Chaotic does not mean destroy everything.
hey,
A chaotic evil is not what people think it is. Chaos does not mean destruction.
not in this sense of the term. That's for sure. Not in D&D, because nature is chaotic.
Yes.
Um,
All chaotic means in the alignment chart is you don't care about the rule. Just like lawful, you only care about the rule. And the neutrals part of that in between lawful and chaotic is, well, I want to follow the rules, but it's not good for this person, or it's not good for this person. So I'm willing to bend the rules so long as it makes up for it. Or neutral, I'm getting paid to bend the rules, so I don't care.
mm,
Or evil, well, I really don't like Bill, so he's not going to follow. We're not going to follow rules for Bill. Bill's a jerk.
yeah. So understand that when you're talking to your players about alignment, have them really look at what those alignments say. Have them kind of do a deep study, because in the PHB, it doesn't really discuss alignment deeply, but there are many resources out there that do discuss alignment. And if they want to play something that is odd-ish, chaotic neutral maybe, then have them really study, what does chaotic neutral really mean?
And
How do they play
as
that?
a dungeon master, reinforce that. I tell all my players alignment is fluid. If you are playing a lawful good person, and then you decide to go out of your way to commit torture and burn down the villages without, cause or reason or anything like that, your alignment's going to change. And then have that as an impact. Okay, you cause these problems. Instead of people going, hey, we like you because you help save the Romans. Hey, get out of here before we attack you. You burned down 2 villages. Make the reputation match. If you're playing an evil character and you walk into a holy church, they're going to not treat you well. Play it. And it's that's how we're at. Which actually does lead me to the next point. This is a less awkward segue. And I'm all for awkward segues. We're down with it. But this one, railroading is okay if done correctly.
Oh, please, yes.
Now, here's the important difference. Railroading, as most people think of it, is you're just being forced to take a path. And that's why a lot of them are afraid of official modules, because of how structured they tend to be. Even though that's a lie, honestly. The official modules, with rare exception, Tyranny of Dragons, for example, is one of the exceptions. The first half of it. It is not a railroady thing. You can decide to or not to do whatever plot hooks are brought before you. That's your choice. But I have found to be railroaded more in homebrews than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a recent example of that, but I'm not going to talk about it, but I do have a recent example of that.
That's because they typically have this world they have built, created, molded around them, and they didn't build anything for offshoots.
They didn't make it sandboxy, as the term goes.
Yeah.
They didn't let you play in it a little bit.
So they only want you in this one path. That's okay, so long as it is steered in. For example, I always warn my players, what you do and do not do does have consequences. So if you zip off and go off on your own thing, let's use Tyranny of Dragons again. If they decided not to take the caravan job, go with the cult up to Water, fine. The cult still go. I didn't have any fear of this because they decided to get there plenty of time ahead of the cult. But if they opted not to, the trail would have gone cold. Cult activities would have changed. Something bad would have happened up north. Word would have gotten to them. And ultimately, they decided to do nothing. Maybe Waterdeep would have burnt down. Maybe Neverwinter would have been gone. Maybe Tiamat gets raised from Avernus and the entire world is destroyed. Who knows? But these are things that could happen. Now, that's not to say if they went off at a different time and attacked something that would set them back. But at that particular point, it was you do this, XYZ happens. You do this, ZYX happens. Things are still going to happen. Cult's not just going to twiddle their thumbs and go, are you done exploring the tombs over there yet? They're not going to do that.
And I do want to tell you, and this is something that I'm going through right now, because I started writing a homebrew of my own, based on the Tal'Dorei setting campaigns book, and I've got the storyline, but I don't have it sandboxy enough for my own taste. However, because I know Tal'Dorei lore, and again, this is part of who I am. I know Faerun lore because I got into it, I researched it, all of this stuff. Same with Tal'Dorei. I know it. So if my players within this homebrew that I'm doing decide that they want to go over here instead of over here, where I have the story written, I can probably fake it till I make it so that they can sandbox a little bit. So understand you don't have to create this whole world. Just understand kind of where your world is, what it's going. Even if you don't have it written, you can at least fake something until you make it, right?
Hmm.
Um, don't don't tell them that they have to go to B because you haven't figured out C yet. Um, Fake it.
So there are
Make
one of the ways that I will railroad, which we haven't had to do yet. Um, my players so far have been really good at doing what they want to do for the most part. Aside from taking half of the animals from the cult, that's just another weird thing. Anywho,
we only have 4 of them.
if they decide to go somewhere that is important down the line, be it for a quest or some other reason, and this actually happened with Tim and I during the Tourney of Dragons, he wanted to talk with the Harpers. And I just kind of went over that a little bit. Like, didn't have any Harpers to talk. Well, why not? Well, there's a few reasons. One, he literally joined the Harpers 2 days prior.
Mm-hmm.
Or a week and 2 days prior when he wanted to finally got to that point from. The Harpers aren't a well spread out group in that area yet. They're still building up their strength and speed and power. And he's low man on totem pole. So they're not going to search him out yet. There's not a conversation to be had yet. So it's, while I understand as a DM, as a player, wanting to interact with that, it's just, yeah, there's nothing there.
So yeah, that's the other thing too, is you as the DM need to understand where your character is as well. Kes knew where Skladba was at that moment. Skladba wasn't a known member. I think like 2 people who are Harpers probably knew who he was.
Yeah, and even if it got to the rest of the group in there wasn't a whole lot of them in the area.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely understand who your characters are, because you're going to do them a disservice. He would have done me a disservice if he had me talking immediately to one of the Harpers and sharing secrets.
Yeah, it could have gone really. It would have gone really, really poorly if I didn't do the right roll, but because I did do a check to see if he found one, and it had to be honestly, it had to be a 20 to find one.
Mm-hmm.
If it rolled a 1, he would have found someone he thought was a Harper, and knowing how Skladba acts, that would have gone really badly. Because it would not have been a Harper. But he would have thought it was.
Yeah. And so I want to go with this because of that particular again, kind of an awkward segue maybe, because you're talking about the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even pretending to be a friend. But let's talk about how the enemies fight. Whatever you do, you don't need to have the enemies fight to the death. There is written, many of you have probably at least read Lost Mine of Phandelver, so you know that there's a green dragon. You know that it's written that he's not supposed to die, and he's not supposed to kill the people. He's supposed to run away at a certain point. However, in 3 of the 4 times that I've played, we killed the green dragon. Epic, It was absolutely epic that we were actually able to do that at like second or third level. I can't remember where it was, but we were able to do it. But he's not supposed to die. He's not supposed to kill. He's supposed to run away. So let that sink into your head and understand that not every enemy needs to fight till someone dies. Sometimes they leave. We had one wizard that locked us in a magical cage and wished alive another bad guy that we all hated and dimensioned door out of there, and the cage dissipated and we didn't know where they went. He escaped, and he was the BBEG. So know that you don't always have to have the enemy die or have the enemy kill someone.
I think my favorite instance of that scripted is actually in Journey of Dragons. In the first chapter, when you first come up with Langdaros, the Kayan Path, it is scripted that he is fighting to basically humiliate one of the players. It is nearly impossible at first level, which the player will be, to, unless you're doing XP, but that's another thing. Even then, if you're doing XP, you should have it with rest system, and you wouldn't have been resting at this point. Anywho, it is nearly impossible to defeat Langdarosa. It can happen. Nearly impossible in a one-on-one fight. But he will knock you out. And I opted not to have him do a full attack when he knocked the character down because of I didn't want to trust not rolling a crit and killing him. Because it is designed in there to put some death save right off the bat with him. Just to give a concept of just the sheer strength of some of the things they're fighting. There also is a blue dragon that's supposed to take out a crap ton of the guard. And if his breath weapon hit any of the players, they're dead. That's it. They're just dead.
Well, and that brings up another point too, because and we've said this previously. It's okay. You're behind the screen. It's okay for you to fudge your rolls in favor of the players.
Yes.
You can do that. That's your prerogative as the DM. You don't want to TPK your party, so fudge the rolls a little bit. It's all right.
They've got to earn the TPK. If they continue to do stupid stuff, let them get themselves killed.
Yeah, or you can like Kes did. He debuffed the character a little bit. He debuffed the dragon by not having the breath weapon because he knew
breath weapon was only targeted towards NPCs, and you guys even ended up just convincing him to get bored and fly away as opposed to actually just fight him outright.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it worked because trying to fight him on, he's supposed to leave after he takes 24 points of damage, which is hard to do.
I'd like to say that the bard seduced the dragon, but that's not true.
No, the druid said, "Hey, why are you here?"
Yeah, pretty much. Who's the druid?
Yeah. Now, gonna come back to something that Tim was talking about with his Tal'Dorei. When it comes to setting, everyone likes the concept of a deep world steeped in history and legend and myth. Less is more. You don't need to tell them all of it.
No, let them learn it.
While I have the lore of the entire continent of Faerun locked in my brain in different file folders,
Same.
if I info dump on them, it doesn't make sense. That also comes in with magic items. I like sliding scales of success. If they barely succeed, they know a bit about it. They don't necessarily know all of it. And rarely even identifying it unless they take it to a professional appraiser, well, they know it's cursed. But there may be some things that hint that it's cursed.
One of the things I love about both being a player and DMing is the history check.
Mm-hmm.
So if you as a DM know the entire lore, if you have, like Kes does, files and files and files in your head of the lore of your world, and someone says, does my character know anything about, make a history check. That's where you throw a little bit of information, not info dump, just throw a little bit of information, and let them believe that their character knew this all along, or that their character sort of kind of heard about it. For instance, Caradoc is he hates orcs, and we battled orcs, and there's a relic in the town, and as a person was describing the relic, Kes said, Caradoc, make a history. It was history, right?
History I said history or Arcana.
Yeah,
and
it was.
You decided to do history because you knew shit about Arcana.
Yeah, and yeah, because he's a barbarian, and now the roll was real low, but because of where my clan comes from where the 9 tribes.
You're in the outskirts of the Many Arrows,
yeah.
Empire of orcs.
So he of course knows. Tim obviously has some fuzzy memory about it, but Caradoc, because of where he grew up, knows about orcs. He speaks Orcish, so when they were describing this relic, Caradoc already knew right away that it was the Eye of Grumsh, the Orcish god of war and destruction, like 750,000 domains that all have to do with chaos.
War, destruction, revenge, vengeance. The story of Grumsh in and of itself is kind of a tragic one.
It is, and it's rather also interesting. I actually like the story of Grumsh, to be honest.
It really does make the orcs more sympathetic.
Yeah.
Even though they're still vicious, bloodthirsty monsters that are more than happy to burn, pillage, and plunder.
Yeah. So of course, Caradoc knew about that. His roll, I think I rolled like a 6, and apparently the DC was 5 for Caradoc.
He would know, regardless, he would always know something about it. He would assume it was the Eye of Grumsh regardless.
Mm.
The question is, would he have known anything more than that?
Yeah. So the fact is that that's where the history comes in, or the Arcana check, or the investigation check, or any number of these checks.
Insight, perception.
Yeah, when you're going around and there is lore to be told, don't give them the whole freaking Faerun encyclopedia. Just give them what they need at the moment, with a successful history check. And if you think it's way beyond their ken, make the DC of 15, so that they have to roll pretty high in order to do it.
That's the other thing. You don't always have to do your DCs in 5. Because again, like I said, I
Right.
like sliding scales. So some things like a DC 10, I'll give them a little bit of information on like a 6. I'll give them the information that's fully required at a 10. And to anything higher, they get a little bit additional information that may or may not be relevant. Like, oh, it's there.
Yeah.
Gives flavor.
Yeah. I think I've actually noticed you do that a couple of times. So yeah.
At least twice.
So don't, whatever you do, don't begin the entire thing. When I ran my first Tal'Dorei campaign online, I put the lore up there, the lore that most people would know. And I'd say, you don't have to memorize all this. But here it is in case you want to read it, about the gods and that type of thing. You don't have to read it. You don't have to memorize it. You're probably going to have to ask questions, and I'll tell you based on what's going to happen. They might know the basic history of Tal'Dorei, but they don't have to. They, as the players, don't have to know it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So be sure that, I love that less is more. Be sure that you're not overloading them with all the information of Faerun and Neverwinter and the Spell Plague and all of that. It's just it gets
Enough
too much
to get them interested, not so much to get them swirling everywhere.
Right.
And that is the same common problem I see with new players. One of the worst questions you can ask them, what do you do? Is too open-ended. It's a great question once someone's comfortable in the system. My games are great on that. And we actually had an issue where early on in Tyranny of Dragons, our player playing the cleric was so overwhelmed, didn't know what he could do. So what I actually ended up doing was giving him some suggestions. Well, were I in your place, I would do this, this, or this. I think I'll do this. Okay, perfect. I've narrowed it down for him. You don't want to give someone the world, is what I'm getting at. If you give them, it's like getting to know somebody. So, tell me about yourself is the worst question you can ask anyone ever. Where do you start? I've got 37 years of stories, life experiences, and weirdness compressed into 3 to 4 sentences. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, and now, so a lot of people, I think a lot of the DMs suffer from what they call the Matt Mercer effect, because Matt Mercer does ask his group, what do you do? However, when you consider that they've been playing for well over a decade, they started in Pathfinder, they went to 5e, they've been playing all of this time, they're professional voice actors, so they know their characters inside and out. They also know the world. So he can say that to them because they're experienced players. You may or may not be an experienced DM. Now, what we're focusing on are newer DMs. We're here to kind of give you hints and that type of thing to be a DM. You're more than likely also going to be playing with newer players. So that kind of a question is so open-ended. It's like setting a child in the middle of a candy store and saying, what do you want?
Yeah, it doesn't give, it's a recipe for frustration and failure.
Mm-hmm.
you need to have a controlled question. And you'll see, if you watch from the Tyranny of Dragons from the beginning to now, you can see the player development as well as the character development. The questions are a little bit easier to ask. I'm figuring out how to ask questions for each individual person. I'll hit a what do you do and then say, okay, give me a bit more specific. Just make sure I'm on the same path. All of these things tie into each other into a point where you're going, all right, what's our next play? What's our next move? What are we going to do here? There's a lot of options, but you want to, especially in the early levels, especially if it's a homebrew campaign, especially if they're new players, give them 2 to 3 options.
Yeah.
Tying in with that railroading's okay. Say, hey, do you want to talk with this person more, or do you want to talk with this person more? So you're giving them an illusion of choice, even if they don't know that these two people are going to say the exact same thing. That's a valid option.
Do you want to go into the room with the beholder, or do you want to go into the room with the goblin?
Let's break game theory down a little bit. Illusion of choice is a real thing.
Yeah.
And in video games, where you get a chance for multiple playthroughs, illusion of choice becomes very apparent, especially in some of the games where they go, yes, you get unbridled and unrivaled choice of consequence and this and this and this and this and this, and rarely does that ever actually happen. A lot of times the choices you make feel meaningless. Dungeons and Dragons doesn't have that same concept, because even if you play the same module over and over and over again, the same homebrew over and over and over and over again, the choices will never be the same. And your reactions to them will never be the same. So with that, if you give them choice A and choice B for people to talk to, say you could talk to the innkeeper, or you can talk to Suspicious Joe. He's named that way because he's suspicious. They could give you the exact same information, delivered slightly different, because you're going to have a different story for the barkeep versus Suspicious Joe. Because the barkeep is far less suspicious.
And if Kes is playing the barkeep, he's going to be a salty, crusty old man. And if he's playing Suspicious Joe, he's going to be shifty-eyed, and he's going to be doing a lot of so there you go.
Yeah, and tropes are okay to go to when you're creating things on the fly. Don't even fret about that.
No, please don't.
But the thing that I'm trying to get to is, if they choose to talk with XYZ person, you don't have to be upset because that person didn't have the quest hook. Give it to them. They didn't see the script. They don't know the note. If they played it through before and they want to talk to someone else entirely, because they said, hey, we really like this, but we want to try it with different characters, cool. Give the hook to someone else. Do it in a different way. Don't give them the hook at all. See if they can find it. Make it more interesting. So it gives you that ability.
And whatever you do, make a lot of fake rolls. I love the fake rolls behind the DM screen. I'm just throwing that out there. It's not one of our points that we were wanting to make today, but I love the fake rolls. You don't have to.
Fake rolls for me, I use them usually. There's 2 main ways that fake rolls are happening. And it's a good and valid point, and it's a nice thing to have. I use the fake rolls if there is a lot of indecision in the party. Which thankfully the 2 campaigns I'm running right now, they know what they want to do. When they want to do it, not a whole lot of debate on it. I have had some games where I'm sitting there trying to stay awake because they're arguing about how to walk into this warehouse for literally 45 minutes. So I developed my fake roll methodology of take a die and roll it in front of the screen. What's that for? You'll see. Eh. And just take the die back. If it keeps going, roll again. They don't know I'm waiting for a crit. And once the crit happens, I force the action. I don't like to be that forceful DM. Sometimes it's necessary. If it's not necessary, I don't do it. But if it crits, they see it, magic happens.
I will tell you that there's a difference between what he's talking about when they're talking about going to open the door, and then there's what our group went through one day when it took us about 20 minutes to open a door.
That's
we
different.
wanted to get through the door. So I mean,
completely different.
Yeah. We knew where we wanted to go. We had our decision made. We just couldn't get
do it.
We couldn't get the damn door open. No matter how hard we tried. So understand that too is something that you want to be aware of, that your group can be decisive and have issues trying to get where they want to go or do what they want to do.
Now, the second part of fake rolls, which I haven't been doing, though I could, is this is a player tension builder. And you can do this one of two ways. First is, hey, roll a perception check for me? Okay, you don't see it. Whatever their roll is. Alright, you don't see it. Now, if they get a crit, you saw a goose. Or some other strange thing, but now they're nervous. What didn't I see? The other thing is you just randomly roll a die. My favorite of the percentiles. Roll that D100. And they go, what's that for? Huh. Guess you don't find out yet.
He actually has done stuff like that before. When Skladba got his DOS loot. Although,
there was a reason for that one.
Although, admittedly, I rolled a bad perception check.
You rolled like a 6.
Yeah, it was a 6. So I would not have seen it anyway, but he did, and yeah, he did tell me later that
I
there was a
explained after
reason.
the fact.
There was a reason, and there was something that went on. I still don't know exactly. I just know that there was something that happened that it affected people. I just did not know how. So yeah, he has done that, but I don't think that they have all necessarily been. I think he's done a couple just to fuck with us a little bit while we were playing, just because we do tend to be a little bit yammery at times.
Well, and there are some times where if the situation calls for it, where you need a little more tension, where you need to get that. Now with Tim, I don't have to worry about it because he gets invested in the character. But some of the other characters and other players, they may not be feeling it as much. So I'll get a little bit of, hey, roll that. And that way I get the player involved in the tension, whether it's there or not. That way it builds a little bit more of the suspense, builds a little more of that urgency and that fear. And it gets a more memorable session because this thing happened.
And that takes us to one of our very first points that we made with you all as DMs is you want to create those memorable experiences. You want, the players want it, you want it. I know you guys as DMs, because I know that both Kes and I, as DMs, um, we
Right.
want that memorable experience, that experience that Squadbud jumps off the back of the bear and does a flip and slices the enemy with a rapier, because it's a cool, memorable moment. We
Hmm.
still talk about it.
It's a
We
good cinematic effect.
Yeah. So work toward that. And again, that all goes back to the fact that the the less you give them, the more they're going to experience. It's
Hmm.
really weird. It sounds like an absolute oxymoron, but it is true. I have more fun not knowing what's happening in the outside world of what I can see, and then I get to experience it as I go on. And with that, I think we probably should call
Yeah.
it. We've gone much longer than we normally do. Um,
Not that that's
I'm not
terribly bad.
I'm not
Um,
going to apologize for it
no,
because it's all fun stuff that we love talking about.
and
So,
it's a lot more information. I do want to dive more into the game theory side of it next week.
mhm,
Dive in for the DMs as to what's going on. Um,
right.
and because right now we're literally on the player side talking about classes, so I want to talk about how to build in these encounters and get that going right. We're going to talk a bit more game theory next week. But I really had to just do a restart on why we're running the game and
Yeah,
how that's going to be rolling in. So,
that makes sense. So, until next week, I'm Tim Gwen.
and even during the week, I'm Buddy Kessler McKnight.
And of course, this is Pillars of Adventure. This is the Dungeon Master Workshop.